Hello and welcome back to Race for the White House, our daily show on the latest in US politics. Today, on this episode, we're going to bring you the Democratic National Convention, the fourth night of the Democratic National Convention, and Kamala Harris accepting her party's nomination for the presidency of the United States. But it's not all good news for Harris. Her campaign has faced serious divisions on the question of Israel and Palestine. A campaign group also pulled its support for the Harris-Walz campaign because of the DNC's refusal to platform a Palestinian-American speaker. All of that and more in this episode of Race to the White House. So let's get going. First off, Vice President Kamala Harris formally accepted the Democratic Party's presidential nomination, delivering a forceful speech that laid out her vision for the country, while also warning about the possibility of former President Donald Trump returning to the White House. Harris was joined on stage by her family and her running mate Tim Walz's family, as red, white and blue balloons fell from the ceiling. A convention official said that more than 100,000 balloons were prepared for that very moment. Capping off the fourth and final day of the Democratic National Convention, Harris recited her life story and her background before directly taking on Trump and laying out her positions on several hot-button issues, including the war in Gaza, immigration, abortion, and more.
Fellow Americans, this election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. We are charting a new way forward to a future with a strong and growing middle class, because we know a strong middle class has always been critical to America's success. And building that middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
The Vice President said that as president, she will aim to pass a middle-class tax cut. Harris said that her opponent, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, was not concerned about the middle class.
Now compare that to Donald Trump, because I think everyone here knows he doesn't actually fight for the middle class. He doesn't actually fight for the middle class. Instead, he fights for himself and his billionaire friends. And he will give them another round of tax breaks that will add up to $5 trillion to the national debt. And all the while, he intends to enact what in effect is a national sales tax, call it a Trump tax, that would raise prices on middle-class families by almost $4,000 a year. Well, instead of a Trump tax hike, we will pass a middle-class tax cut that will benefit more than 100 million Americans.
Harris argued that the Republican former president's plan for tariffs will serve as a price hike. Trump has threatened to use tariffs to achieve what he terms fair trade relations and fair trade deals with other countries. However, on the other hand, Trump has tried to characterize Harris as weak on immigration as the election gets closer. But Harris has pledged to reform the country's immigration system if she is elected president in November.
After decades in law enforcement, I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border. Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security, and here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law. I know we can live up to our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system. We can create an earned pathway to citizenship, and secure our border.
After much speculation, Vice President Harris actually came out with the strongest remarks so far on where she stands on the Israel-Hamas war and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Harris says that she and President Biden are still pushing for a ceasefire deal that sees the hostages released, the fighting in Gaza ended, so that Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
At the same time, what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
Harris wrapped up her nomination speech calling on Americans to write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told.
We are the heirs to the greatest democracy in the history of the world. And on behalf of our children and our grandchildren and all those who sacrificed so dearly for our freedom and liberty, we must be worthy of this moment. It is now our turn to do what generations before us have done, guided by optimism and faith, to fight for this country we love, to fight for the ideals we cherish, and to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American. So let's get out there, let's fight for it, let's get out there, let's vote for it, and together let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
Moving on, even as the Democratic National Convention brought political dividends for Kamala Harris, it also came with some pushback. Muslim Women For Harris-Walz, a campaign group, announced that it would no longer support the Harris campaign and would dissolve itself. This came after news broke that no Palestinian-American speakers would be invited to speak at the convention. We cannot, in good conscience, continue Muslim Women For Harris-Walz in light of this new information from the uncommitted movement, that Vice President Harris's team declined their request to have a Palestinian-American speaker take the stage at the DNC, the group said in a statement. However, the convention did feature a speech by the family of an Israeli hostage who was kidnapped by the militant group Hamas in its October 7th attack on Israel. It was precisely this double standard that caused Muslim Women For Harris-Walz to end their support for the Democratic ticket. Harris was also criticized by the uncommitted delegate group, which has maintained a presence at the Democratic National Convention. This controversy reflects the larger divisions in the Democratic Party over the war in Gaza. President Joe Biden and his administration have been criticized in many quarters for their unbroken support for Israel's military campaign in Gaza, which has killed over 40,000 people. The party has lost much support among Arab Americans due to this policy, and in a tight election, that's something the party wants to avoid. But Israel has also been an American ally for decades and enjoys significant support among Americans. In fact, Israel's influence in America's domestic politics is a much discussed and highly controversial subject. The Democratic Party has so far handled this issue badly. At the DNC, its main speakers made little mention of the war, although several did call for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict. But even as they did so, one of the party's own representatives, Ilhan Omar, led a protest outside the DNC convention center. The refusal to platform a Palestinian-American, as well as the political blowback from that decision, shows that the party still hasn't figured out how to handle this vital issue. Next up, we have an exclusive interview with American Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, who actually is known for coining the term Samosa Caucus, a nickname given to a group of Indian American lawmakers in the United States Congress. Take a listen.
Congressman, thank you so much for doing this. We're from India today. Interestingly, you're the person who named Samosa Caucus.
Yeah.
An Indian American is going to get nominated tomorrow as the president. What are your thoughts on that?
It's the ultimate member of the Samosa Caucus. Look, I think that, it's such a point of pride. I think people are bursting with enthusiasm over the fact that Kamala Harris could become president. There's tremendous momentum for her right this moment, but we have a long road ahead. I mean, we still have 76 days, which is an eternity in politics. So we have to roll up our sleeves. And as Michelle Obama so eloquently said, we have to do something. We have to do something to get her across the finish line.
In your opinion, what are some of the issues that voters have in their mind? Because, there are a lot of independent voters who haven't made up their mind yet. So what are some of the issues you think Democrats need to, sort of nail the message?
I think that we obviously have to deal with the border situation, immigration. We have to deal with the cost of living and whether, inflation and high prices are going to be something that we can rein in. I think that we also have to deal with some kind of perception that, Democrats may not be as strong as, Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we have a lot going for us. Namely, we have an excellent candidate who has, really inspired a nation, who's really galvanized the coalition, especially in light of the fact that Donald Trump is on the other side. And secondly, that our fundamental freedoms are on the line, including reproductive freedoms.
If I were to ask you something on the lines of, you are the chairman of the communist, the Chinese, I'm sorry, forgetting the name, but the Chinese, the ranking member, my bad,
Yeah.
on the China committee. What kind of threat do you perceive, if like right now, as in we saw that the news came out about nuclear threats, or the U.S. changing its nuclear policy. What kind of threats, do you anticipate in coming months or years from China?
Well, I think that China has been throwing its elbows economically, militarily, technologically against its neighbors, against our friends and partners throughout the Indo-Pacific region, and for that matter, in other parts of the world too. And so that's why it's so important that we band together, whether it's the U.S. and India or the U.S. and its other partners and allies, to set the international rules of the road on how certain things are beyond the pale, such as trying to, change the borders of another sovereign country, or violating the fundamental human rights of people, as the CCP is doing with regard to the Uyghurs or the Tibetans or Hong Kongers, or, for instance, dumping goods on the international market in a bid to undercut competition and destroy competition. I mean, these are the types of things that we have to kind of work with other countries to make clear are unacceptable.
One last question. We saw India's relationship grow under President Joe Biden. If Trump was to win, or he were to win, do you think that there will be any impact on a U.S. relationship in India?
Yes, I think that while I do see the relations always continuing to improve, I'm concerned that someone like Donald Trump could destabilize other relationships that could, negatively impact the security situation around the world. And that's not a good thing for anybody.
And what would you say to all Indian Americans who are watching this, especially in the swing states who haven't made up their mind who to vote for? What would you tell them right now?
It's time to vote for Kamala Harris. There's no question in my mind. I think the vast majority of Indian Americans are going to do that. As I like to say, she's going to bring curry powder to the White House. It's going to be a great moment. But in all seriousness, Kamala Harris is the type of person who knows the struggles of an immigrant family, knows the struggles of, being someone who's not necessarily in the mainstream, who knows the hardships of everyday people. And so we want someone like that in the White House because they'll be fighting for you, not for themselves.
All right, Congressman, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for doing
Thank
this.
you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
And now, our White House correspondent Rohit Sharma also got a chance to speak with the American voters in Chicago on who they will be voting for in the upcoming presidential elections and why. Take a look at our next report.
We're here in Chicago, and one of the things that we wanted to do is talk to people on the street and just try to get an understanding from them as to who they vote for. And it's just like a quick 1 second street poll that we wanted to do and understand from here in Chicago that who are the people thinking they're going to vote for. I know this is Chicago. This is a very deep blue state. This is the Democratic National Convention at its peak. So the answers that we may get would be a little skewed. The data would be skewed. But still, we just wanted to do this to understand, if the wave is real, and B, if there are people, who are supporting Trump. Just want to pick their brain and try to understand, what's their rationale behind picking one candidate versus the other. So here we go. Hi, sir. So who are you supporting in this election?
Well, I'll be supporting Harris. That's for me. That's clear. I wish her all the best.
Kamala Harris.
Thank you. Sir, what about you?
Kamala Harris.
Thank you.
Do you want to know why?
Are you sure? Yeah, why are you supporting her?
Because I want to be able to vote in another election after this one.
Oh, wow. Okay. And sir, you? Why are you supporting Kamala?
Yeah, we don't. I'm fighting for democracy, right?
Okay.
Not a dictator to come in to the United States.
Are you worried about Project 2025?
Oh, of course. I mean, all the stuff that you hear about it, I haven't read it, but all the stuff that you hear, it's frightening. That somebody could come in and do what that says he wants to do.
Sir, I see you have a Make America Great Again hat. So no guesses who you're supporting this election, but I'll still ask, who are you supporting this election?
Definitely Donald Trump.
100%.
100% Donald Trump.
And why are you supporting Donald Trump?
Honestly, this last 4 years, this country's gone completely to garbage. We need to get it back on track. We need safety, security. We need to have the country unified. And honestly, it's just the fake news media that's making everyone see a divide between Trump and the left. Really, he's down the middle, I think.
Okay.
So I think
Fair
we
enough.
need him, and we're going to make this country great again.
Thank you. Ma'am, who are you supporting? And I see a very interesting hat on you as well. Who are you supporting?
I think it's a little obvious as well. I'm also voting for Donald Trump. And for me, the main concern is I've got a little girl. I want to make sure that my daughter grows up in a safe country, a free country, one where the government's not meddling in her life. So that's why I'm voting for Donald Trump. I think he's very anti-establishment, wants people to have their freedoms, have their rights, and not meddle in their personal lives. So that's why I'm voting for him.
Who are you supporting this election and why?
None.
None?
Yeah.
Why not?
I think, I think politics really matters to really poor people or really affluent people. Someone in the middle couldn't really care less. I think it's more about just do your stuff and that's it. That's kind of it.
So you're not going to vote?
No, I'm just going to focus on what I should be doing in my life rather than any of the other things.
Not really surprised that we've met a lot of Democrats. We're trying to find some other people, who could possibly be voting for Donald Trump. And we'll probably see. Ma'am, do you have a moment? Can I ask you a simple question? It's just one question. Who are you supporting this election? You're supporting?
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. And why?
Because she's fantastic.
Okay, thank you. So as I was saying, we're meeting a lot of people. Again, Chicago being a very democratic city. It's a democratic state. So not really surprised here that a lot of people here are actually saying that they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. But then we actually found an independent voter, and we also saw or met two Republicans, and we asked them why they are supporting the candidate Donald Trump, and they had different reasons for that. So we'll keep talking to people here on the street, trying to understand from them, who are they supporting in this election. Obviously, a very, very, very important election for a lot of Americans, and there's a lot of interest in this election. So I think that's very important. Sir, ma'am, can I ask you one question? Who are you supporting this election? Who are you supporting in this election?
Obviously.
Can you name?
Kamala.
Kamala, sorry, what about you?
I do not support either.
You don't support either?
Either.
So are you going to vote?
I'm going to vote. Illinois, I burn my vote, doesn't matter what, but neither of them is good candidate.
So, but if you were to vote, who will you vote for?
I will vote, but for neither of them. I will select someone else from the ballot. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. So, I mean, as we were speaking, in a different context, a different conversation, a little while ago, that there are some people on the street that we've met are not happy with either candidates, and they're wanting to, they prefer to have a different choice, but some of them probably are not gonna vote, and that's gonna skew the results when they come in. Ma'am, I have a quick question for you. Who are you supporting in this election?
I can't say.
I mean,
Off camera, I'll tell you.
well, this is going to air in India. It's not going to air here in the United States, so nobody would know in the U.S.
Off camera, I'll tell you. I can't
Okay.
say.
Who are you supporting this election?
I can't say. Thank
But
you.
you're not on this now anymore. You're not on camera anymore.
Yeah, I am.
You're not.
I can't say, but
Okay. No worries. Thank you, ma'am. But off camera, if I were to ask. So that was a very interesting thing that just happened. One of the persons that we were trying to talk to did not want to answer the question, and as soon as we took the camera off, she said she would vote for Trump. So the fear of retribution is actually very real here, where people think that if they say things like that on camera supporting one candidate, they'll probably be judged. So I have a quick question for you. Who are you supporting in this election? Ma'am, can I have one quick question? Who are you supporting this election? So some people obviously not wanting to talk, obviously, for the same reason we just saw. We'll try to ask them. Can I have a quick question? Who are you supporting this election? Who are you supporting in this election?
I'm not going to tell about it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So, I mean, as you see, a lot of people not really willing to talk about it. I think it all depends on... a lot actually depends on how things happen, or like some of these voters and what they decide between now and November 5th. But even, I'm surprised, even for Chicago, that I'm meeting people, and we are like literally streets away from the Democratic National Convention. I actually am surprised to see a lot of Trump supporters, and this is what I think the polls have been, and I think I could probably say this now, really close, very, very close election. We'll try to walk over to the other street to see if we could find some more people. Remember, most of the streets are blocked off. A lot of people are working from home. That's why you don't see a lot of people on the street. So the people that you're meeting on streets are mostly the DNC, Democratic supporters, staffers, volunteers, delegates, and all of them are inside the convention room right now. So we'll try to see if we could talk to a few more people to make some kind of assessment and see if we can actually, figure out. Ma'am, I have a quick question for you. Who are you supporting this election?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, I can take the camera off. We're just doing like a.
I really don't know.
You don't know? Are you debating who you want to vote still?
I mean, I know I don't want to vote for Trump.
You don't want to vote for Trump?
No.
Okay, so you're not sure about Kamala either?
No, not convinced.
And you live in Chicago, is it?
Yes.
Okay, and have you always voted for one party or the other?
I actually voted for the first time in the last election.
Last election?
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for speaking with us. Who are you supporting this election?
Who am I supporting?
Oh, shit, we don't even know.
I ain't gonna lie.
There's nobody here. So.
I'm gonna say Miss K. Miss
K?
Miss K. Miss Camille. Like,
Thank
don't.
you.
Thank you.
So that was a very interesting, talk with some of the supporters there. A lot of them not wanting to talk on camera, and I think this is something very unconventional. I think Americans usually are very vocal about their political choices and parties they support, but a lot of people did not want to talk on camera. One lady even told us that off camera, she told us that she would vote for Trump, but she cannot say this on camera. So bottom line is, and for the people that have talked on the streets here in Chicago, it looks like it's even Stevens for now. And this is Chicago. Remember, this is a very deep blue state here in America. So whatever happens in those swing states will, of course, decide. But then there are people who are holding their thoughts back. They haven't made up their minds yet. And I think that's what will decide who wins on November 5th.
That's it from our end on this episode of Race for the White House. We hope you'll catch us again on Monday with the latest from America's election landscape.